Ice staff? Oh my god, electro globe? Pickaxe? A turret revamp? An infinite pedestal? What is that? New islands? A hornet? XL totem? Can my voice get any higher? Oh my god, it's here. Update 9, baby. Are the neighbors doing a noise complaint right now? Am I getting evicted next week? We'll find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. But for now, we're going through Update 9 patch notes. Whew, look at this. I'm still scrolling. Can you see? Can you see? I'm explaining what's in front of your eyes. That is a chonker of an update. Let's take a gander at all the new awesome shit being added yet again in another huge update. Noisestorm continues to impress, and this Update 9, the Elemental update, is no different. All right, moving into the general section at the top here. This is the most jaw-dropping stuff, the flashy stuff, the new stuff. So let's just get into it. Off rip, a massive turret rework. Turrets and all turret-related perks and items are now part of your ability. The perks are moved into ability mods, and the turrets themselves spawn at the location of your ability landing. You know, wherever the explosion happens, wherever your grapple hook lands, wherever your grenade lands, etc. This is a massive difference. In the past, they just spawned randomly. It was goofy. It was weird. It didn't make sense. Now, you plan where they spawn, and the turret perks do not crowd up the normal perk inventory. They're now part of your ability mods. It's perfect. Next, we've got the infinite shop pedestal. This is a literal pedestal in the shop. You can just keep buying it. Price goes up a little bit each time, but you can buy an item infinitely many times, assuming you have the income. It's still RNG, but it gives you the option to really lean into one item that fits your build. Probably a little game breaking. You know, it is OP. Hands up. I'll admit it. But Noisestorm, don't take it out, sir. It's really fun. I like it. Please. We got a bunch of new enemies here. The Hornet, you saw that picture. They're pretty creepy. They buzz like bees. They are crazy. Weird ring attacks, and it seems like those attacks get more intense over time. You have to prioritize killing them first. There's also an elite variant, even crazier. Speaking of elites, we've got the elite ramming grub. Oh my goodness, this big man, this chungus, they'll come at you. They will ram your ass off the map. It is insane. And just speaking of grubs, all of the grubs are now ramming grubs. They're just called grubs. They don't have the word ramming in there. Regular grubs and mini grubs have kind of been combined. They're one enemy and they do a ram attack. Kind of sounds like Legos dropping around, a little plinking around. Pretty funny though. I think it's a good combination. New island type, harvesting. This is kind of like, I don't know, King of the Hill and like a Call of Duty. There's little areas, you got to stand in them for a certain number of seconds, then they go away, you move on to the next area. It's definitely a pretty easy island type, ultimately. You don't see it too often, kind of like parkour. Get through it, you really won't be challenged, and you'll get a nice reward. 5, am I counting that right? 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 4 is 7, plus 1 is 8. New islands. We've got 1 completely new tropical, 2 completely new Arctic, 4 new desert, but some of those are just reworked, and 1 new volcanic entirely, plus some reworks in there. So probably more like 10 or so changes to the maps, to the islands. I'm loving all the islands currently in the game, and I know you will too. Maybe. I don't know. Fuck you. 5 new songs. As always, these are bangers. They're in the background of this video. They're great. Play the game, crank the music to 11. You'll have a good time. Maybe, I don't know. F you. Haha, recurring joke. Tony snoring. This big man, he's snoring. He's just asleep. His eyes are open. I don't know how he does it. Maybe he's just guarding his shop while he's sleeping. I don't know. But he is snoring. Speaking of shops, we've got a unique shop island for each of the biomes. So the tropical one is the way it's always been. Then we actually have a frozen one where Tony's frozen. We've got a desert one where he's chilling in the sand, and then we've got a lava one where he's chilling in the lava rock. It's very, very cool. Ice has gotten a pretty big rework. So this is called the Elemental Update, and ice is a big part of that. Ice now inherently thaws. And when it thaws, when the stacks go away over time, boom, chunks them for damage. Just like kind of the way hot steam works, the perk for fire, that's kind of just built into ice. It's just there all the time. This in and of itself is a pretty big buff to ice. Ice is actually worth taking for once. But beyond that, the ice ability, talk about that a little bit later, but that got buffed pretty nicely. Also looks cool. Moving on, we've got 23 new achievements. So if you guys were hunting for that gold skin, well, you're gonna have to regrind, baby, because abilities and melee weapons now also have ranks, which means you need to get diamond on all of them as well. So just adding those, 11 times 2 is 22 new achievements just for those. And then I think there's an achievement to beat Alter Chaos as well for that extra challenge. We love a good grind in a game that we actually enjoy. It's not just mindless. It's actually worth it. Another big change, melee mods. That's right, not perks. Mods. They are their own separate category in the inventory UI. And all of the melee perks have now been moved to the melee category naturally, right? So things like Vampire, Big Claws, Sharp Claws, Iron Claws, Blender, Ice Claws, Fire Claws. Wait, what's that? New? Lightning Claws? Poison claws? My god, finally. I've been saying it forever. We have some items, you know, there's ice shot, fire shot, electric shot, there's all the elements. But then we have some other items, like before this update, where you just had ice and fire claws. Why not give us all of them? So now we have almost all of them. We're still missing arcane claws. Don't know if that's coming, but we did get lightning claws and poison claws. Speaking of mods, we've got really just one legitimately new weapon mod here with pumpkin shot. It's kind of a goofy one, but just in time for Halloween here. Pumpkin spawns. Okay, it does say it is explosive, so you know we'll be stacking that high with a minigun or laser cannon, seeing how many pumpkins we can get going. It'll be a fun build. Moving into ability mods, we've got bouncing explosions, so just like bouncing shot, your explosion will now bounce. So that bowling build that we've done twice, you know it's coming a third time. Instead of the rocket launcher, we're just going to use the new electro globe. A couple more heat sink. This is if you remember the early builds of this game, if you were one of the OGs back in the closed beta or even just early access, we had a perk called Haste, which was a grenade cooldown reduction. Now we have Heat Sink, which is an ability cooldown reduction. It was OP back then. This is still OP, but I like that it's in. You know, it's properly scaling, but it reduces that cooldown. You can really spam. It's awesome. And one last ability mod here, landmine explosion. There was landmine shot. Now we got the ability variant. Very nice. Some new perks. Poisonous armor, so just like flammable armor or explosive armor, poisons enemies when armor breaks. A couple new is power perks. Remember, money is power. One of the all-time best items in the game. Even with little tweaks, nerfs, and buffs here and there, it has remained extremely strong because of how nice it is to get an econ build, and your damage would scale from that. Now we have the same thing, but health is power. Your damage will scale up as your health is increased. And even speed is power. Same thing, but for your bonus movement speed. That one's not quite as powerful right now. I do think health is power is probably a top 5 item. It's incredible. We're going to be doing this power build as well coming up, so keep an eye on the channel. And two last perks, silver lining. You take damage, well, guess what? Your damage actually increases permanently. And finally, lightning dash. Oh, I said lightning was better. We had ice dash, now we got lightning dash. Moving on to relics, we've got actually a pretty decent number of new ones here. The turbo ring increases your fire rate after each island. Ring of Healthy Turrets increases the turret health. Really, it's a turret cooldown. So with that turret rework, your turrets only last a certain number of seconds and then they disappear, regardless of if they've taken damage or not. This increases that cooldown, that health, by 400%, effectively 5 times, right? That's the bread and butter to a turret build. You can spawn tons of turrets by having multiple turret items, things like Bounce Explosion on your ability, things like Clone Explosion, or even Grenadier, but they'll all just not last very long until you find this Healthy Turrets relic, so it's huge. More here, we've got the Twin Ring, where turrets spawn in pairs, another huge one, although not as necessary. A Greed Relic, which I didn't realize there were Greed Relics. I don't know if that's a typo or not, but we've got the Ring of Tankiness. I think it's just legendary. Max health increases, but movement speed reduces. Pair that one with Big Bones. That's got to be crazy. Another relic, Ring of Wisdom. Your crit will increase after each island. And then we move into our challenge modifiers. We've got icy enemies. All enemies will freeze you as a player. That one stinks. I avoid it. We've got twinned enemies. Enemies spawn in pairs, effectively doubling the enemy count. Healing enemies. They heal each other. And landmine rain, just like barrel rain. Instead, we've got landmines coming down. In general, tons of new VFX and sound effects. You will notice them. There's too many little ones to specifically talk about here, but just know that as we continue along this early access period here, we're about a year and a half into it with this game, he is ever so slightly, it's not even ever so slightly, he's replacing placeholders. That's all there is to it. There's just a lot of placeholders, and even the placeholders look good, so it's not like we're screwed over by a shit game right now. You all know that, but just know that more and more things are being finalized, or at least better than what they were, and you will, when you hop in, you'll notice the difference in quality slowly going up each update. And if any of you guys have been here since the early days, it's night and day different. Talk about the 3 new skins, Chrome, Vampire, and Heat. I like them all. Chrome is kind of silver and shiny, but not like the actual silver skin. It's a little bit more chromey. Pretty straightforward there. Vampire is really cool. It's like black and red, swirls kind of thing. And then Heat is a fiery one, another one. We've got a lot of fire-related skins now. I'm eating good. I don't know about you guys if you're fans of the fire. I don't know if he's just trying to make me happy. I mean, hey, bring it on, man. I love it. Greatly reduced bandwidth when there's a lot going on in multiplayer games. So this is I don't want to say it's a complicated point, but this and a handful of other things he touches on down below with quality of life stuff. In general, the game runs even smoother. I've always thought that this game was pretty well optimized, but there's weird fringe things that happen, especially when you get pushing into later islands and there's just so many damn projectiles. Just a lot going on. And he has done a lot of different little tricky, nifty changes that have ultimately made it so that the game keeps higher frame rate for a lot longer. You're not lagging in multiplayer. You know, even when you have 4 people all spamming crazy builds, it's just really, really smooth. I've talked about my stupid PC. It's overkill for this. I've got a 4080 Super. I know. But at the same time, I promise you, I used to be dropping into the 50, 60, 70 frame rate when it gets crazy. I'm still over 100 in those same scenarios now. It's very impressive how he continues to find ways to optimize ultimately. And if you want to read into the reasons or how he's done that, there's lots of details in these larger bullet points. Moving down a few points here, AoE explosions and in general, it's not even all AoE. It's just things that affect a large radius. I guess that's the definition of AoE, right? But anyway, AoE has a damage fall-off mechanic, so to speak. Things like rocket. If you're hitting an enemy with a rocket head on, they'll take 100% damage. But people on the outside of that damage radius will take a fraction of damage. I think it goes from 100 to 25 maybe down to 50% pretty gradually. I haven't actually noticed it. It seems on paper like a little bit of a nerf, but in reality, it doesn't feel that bad as a player when you're attacking. But as a player taking damage from like a slug exploding, you don't take as much unless you're getting hit dead on. So sometimes you would just barely be within range and you get chunked. Now you really don't feel it as bad, and I think it's a lot more fair. It just overall it actually ended up being a buff to the player. Talk about shops a little bit here. In general, econ got reworked to where everything is just cheaper, but you also earn income slower. The numbers are just smaller overall and a little bit tighter. Ultimately, I think this is a nerf to the player. You know, you don't get those builds snowballing quite as fast, quite as early on in the run, but it's not to the point where you feel like the game is significantly harder. Ultimately, you know, a lot of my recordings, if you've been watching, I don't really need to go past island, the second loop, which is crazy because it's already snowballing by that point. Now it probably takes more like 3 or 4 loops for like truly just OP god tier builds. So I think it's good. Moving into enhancements, we've got a couple new ones here. Arcanifying, it's just the arcane one. He says he'll find a better word for it. We'll see. But you get the point, right? You could add all the other elements. Now you can add arcane as well. Targeting enhancement is like adding targeting shot. And in general, a few things have been removed, and there's an overall rarity system to enhancements as well. The real build strat at this point, no matter what you're doing, is to get 1 or 2 weapon mods that you really like for your build and then enhance them. That's it. And if you don't get the good enhancement, drop 1, repurchase, rebuy the stack, effectively resets, try the enhancements again. So now there's at least some rarity in there. It's not quite as game breaking. He also removed spiraling and chaotic, which sucked, so good job. Those were awful. And he even made it so that like weird interactions didn't happen. You're not going to find freezing on fireball shot like he says, or homing on homing shot. So tightening that up, the whole system works better. Also, this totem doesn't break as quickly. That was great for multiplayer runs where Flappy would freaking take the enhancement totem 3 times and I would never get it. Fuck you, Flappy. Now I'm going to get it. That wraps up the general section, as if that wasn't just super long. But let's move into general balance changes. Still general. 3 portals instead of 2. I don't know. More choice to the player. Runs count as wins even if you die after choosing to loop. Again, I'm not going to complain. It makes it easier for me. It makes it easier for you as a player. It's just easier. I did kind of like the fact that it was kind of a risk versus reward of choosing to loop, but again, not going to complain. Here's another big one. No longer are there 8 islands per biome. There are 7. So a full set is 28. Looping for diamond is now only 56. So you're getting 5 combat, 1 shop, and then 1 elite or boss. I like it. It's very fast paced now. Quick 28 island games. Just hop in, hop out. Less than, I mean, even if you're going slow, it's like 30 minutes. It's great. You can see in here, he's got some more turret related stuff. A lot of fire rates have been increased. Stacks dealt by the elemental ones have been increased. Enhanced turrets is more powerful. In general, you should notice a night and day difference with turrets. Go check out my turret build video. Absolutely nuts. The Rush Blessing also got a little bit of a tweak here. It's shared amongst your team in multiplayer runs, so it's a lot less hard to get it, especially if one of your teammates is a little bit overpowered. Flappy, goddammit. And in general, on the UI, you see it counting. I think is that even new to this freaking update? I'm not even going to fact check it because I have so much more to talk about. Someone in the comments let me know. Moving on to the weapon balance changes. A lot of little tweaks. Big ones I'm noticing: minigun damage from 2 to 3, laser cannon damage from 2 to 3. AR gets a nice buff in damage, 5 to 8. That's actually really big. And the projectile speed is basically hit scan. Yeah, 400%. It feels like hit scan. It's nuts. AR has very quickly become one of the better automatic ones. I know that Orb is very good as well. I mean, they're all great. They're all very nuanced differences, but AR is sick. And if you didn't notice, the new wooden kind of style, the model has been updated. That's one of the placeholders that is definitely more of a finalized model than it was. Very, very good. Big buff to the flamethrower. It still sucks, I think, but spread is reduced, range is increased. The level of fire shot is up to 4, so you know, very high percentage chance to leave some fire stacks going. It's better. It's certainly better. I don't know if that's enough to bring it up to par with a lot of the rest of the weapons, but I'll definitely be checking it out. Rocket launcher, big buff to damage, 35 to 50, but realistically, this is only countering the new radial damage fall-off mechanic that I talked about earlier. The last big change, marksman rifle. Very different now. It has a scope still on the physical model, but you do not do the first-person aim like the sniper anymore. You're also a buff from 8 to 12 damage per bullet, still shoots 3, and I believe fire rate reduced slightly. I think it feels a little bit more unique now. Sniper's the only first-person weapon. Speaking of fire rate, I lied. One more thing, sniper rifle fire rate increased, so it does feel a little bit better now. Still 100 damage. Now it's more like 1 shot per second instead of like 1 shot every, or 0.75 shots a second. You know, it's 1 shot every, I don't know, 1.2, 1.3 seconds. So it's better. Moving into the weapon mods section, this is where, in general, a lot of little things have gotten a lot better. Torpedo shot, triangle shot, rapid fire, light shot, health shot, the cooldown reduced, right? Fireworks shot and an explosion aren't nearly as garbage. Spore shot and spore explosion, the mushrooms deal more damage. Shotgun blast damage went from 10 to 32 per pellet, which seems like a crazy increase, but then again, I still need to try it out. Removed the unused debuffs from random shot. If you guys remember, there's like weird triangle symbols and stuff that there's only 5 elements in the game. What are these other ones? There was like confusion and slow and some other ones that were just unnamed. They weren't even in the game. Just the symbol was, and now they're completely gone, which cleans it up. And I think the biggest one here though is targeting shot now acts as a legitimate full copy of your main shot and can trigger other on-hit weapon mods. So your targeting shot can proc your fire shot, for example, or your mace shot, and I'm very happy with that change. Guess what? We're only about halfway. Woo! Voice crack, let's go! Moving into abilities. Got some changes and then ability mod changes here. Grenade gets a nice buff. That's nice. Big one I want to talk about though is Ice Blast. Due to those ice changes, ice in general is better. Ice Blast literally does freeze enemies and apply stacks, and it looks way cooler with those ice spikes coming up. Black Hole's another one that received a little bit of attention here. The damage is increased. The suction happens on everything now. Really just anything. Instead of the landmines and barrels flying away, they get sucked in too, and the suction doesn't overshoot. I would complain, it kind of slingshots him around too much, and now it doesn't do that anymore. It still sucks him in, but it's much more of a crowd control than it used to be, so happy that he addressed that. Moving into those mod changes, few things here and there. In general, cooldowns have either been removed entirely or greatly reduced. There's a couple in here where the cooldown was greatly reduced, and the rest of them just don't have cooldowns anymore, which I think is great. Also, finally removed the goddamn heavy grenade, spiral grenade, and snake grenade. Oh my goodness. I don't mind snake and spiral and zigzag and whatnot with weapons just because it is a pretty nice little damage boost. At least early game, it's not too bad at all. But on grenade, it was just like, mother of God. Good riddance, buddy. Moving on to melee weapon changes. What do we got? Oh yeah, the hammer. Idiot. Hammer looks new. Does not look like a Thor Mjolnir ripoff anymore. Not that it was bad. All right. No offense, man. Noisestorm, I didn't mean it that way. God. But yeah, it looks a lot more unique now. Obviously, that animation is clean. Chef's fucking piss, baby. Big jump slam attack. Front flip in there. You can get some nice movement as well. In line with that, we've also got the jumping slam attack of the pickaxe, which is more of like a line attack. I actually like pickaxe better. I don't know if it is better. I haven't really run them enough to definitively say one is better than the other, but they're both very, very strong. But don't worry, the other one's got some love as well. Dagger has knockback a little bit, and Claw had the knockback increased from 30 to 50, which is a pretty high percentage increase. Melee builds are as good as they've ever been. Now that we got 4 really, really solid weapons, you've got things like Lightning Claw and Poison Claw being added. Melee mods have their own setup in the UI, in your inventory. Oh, it's just, what a time to be a melee main. If for the few of you out there, you're eating good today with this update. Moving into perks, pretty big chunky section. I think there's only really a couple big things that stand out to me. The first one here is really, I'm just going to call the elemental stuff. It's a lot of different things, but a big one is an ice cube, oil can, metal rod, and poison vial. All of these perks that were like increasing the effectiveness of the stacks once they're applied. They're all consolidated. New perk called Elemental Expert. And now you have damage increased to enemies based on the number of unique debuffs. So if you put fire on them, that's a certain percentage. You put fire plus poison, much higher. Add lightning in there as a third, oh, you're cooking. So things like random shot are actually going to stand out really well with this item. And then I think the other thing worth mentioning here, well, one of a couple of things, but the auras as a whole, elementals and damage aura, much larger radius, much larger damage, apply more stacks, but you get that damage fall off mechanic yet again. Finally, I think it's worth mentioning equalizer. Remember, it's a damage buff if you have an even number of stuff. Now it's an even number of perks. It used to be you had to have even weapon, even ability, and even perks. Now it's just perks. I've said it once. I've said it 3 times. I've said it 5 times. Guess what? It's an even number of perks only. Moving on to relics. A lot of changes here. Mostly, though, 6 to 8 slots. We got more slots. I wouldn't be surprised if it just fills all the way out to 12 at some point. Relic portals are twice as likely to drop. I still think they're pretty rare, but you will see them more often. And then we've got some changes and some additional relics here. Like Adrenaline is basically a relic now. Red Fury is a relic now. Crystal Dividends is a relic now. Reinforced is a relic now. Regenerating Armor is a relic now. And Ring of Gravity is a legendary now. So big change there. I think relics are going to be the bread and butter make or break, like the real hard-hitting items for your build like he initially wanted them to be. A lot of the best items in the game have been transitioned into relics. Let's move into enemies here. I think there's a lot of details here, and a lot of you will be happy by things like Elite Fire Crabs and Ice Skull launch attack is no longer covering the entire map. You know, it's reduced. Elite Lightning Crab doesn't have the health of a goddamn King Skull. Things like that are nice, but I think the largest thing, the most important thing, is that a lot of enemies have simplified attacks. Most enemies, especially regular enemies, the non-elites, non-bosses, they really only have 1, maybe 2 attacks. And those attacks are color coordinated with the enemy traditionally. Poison ants have green attacks. Regular ants have the red attack. It's a lot easier to see a specific projectile type, an attack coming at you, and know what enemy is the person doing that attack. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff in here. The last thing I want to talk about, though, Starfish has a new sound. If you'll notice closely, it doesn't exactly sound like a starfish, now does it? No, that's a rooster, my dude. That's a cock. But hey, I think it's actually really funny that he did that. It's a good joke, and I hope he keeps it in. Moving on to the last couple sections with QOL and general bug fixes. Again, I'm going to keep saying it. There's a lot of stuff in here, so please check out the link in the description. Read it all yourself. But we've got some heavy-hitting ones here, like finally being able to drop crystals to your teammates. Oh my god. No longer do you have to buy an item for your teammate in the shop and then, oh, but your inventory's full, so you drop the item and you say, hey, nobody steal this. Then you drop the item for them. Then you try to go pick up your own item, and then Flappy comes in and steals it again. God damn it. So yeah, dropping crystals. Beautiful. I love it. I think you just drop like a 10% of whatever you have every time you click it, so that the bundles get smaller over time. But yeah, hitboxes have been adjusted, so no more getting stuck in walls. He keeps saying that every update, and then every update something happens where people are getting stuck in walls. And that's not, I'm not saying you don't know what you're doing, but I am saying that my fingers are crossed that it finally fixed it. Totems, no longer fully placeholder. We've got 3 new ones here. The random totem is no longer the same goddamn color of purple as the crystal totem. Glass totems literally look like glass. They're almost hard to see. It's almost too transparent, but they look cool. Gold totems are very nice, very gold, very clean. And the fuse totems look unique as well. In co-op, you know how you see your teammates' names and you would see their score and their kills. Now you see their crystals and their kills, which I don't really care about score. I don't think I've ever cared about score besides the one challenge where you got to get a huge score. So I don't know if we'll bring that back. I don't know if we'll put it somewhere else, but for now the UI shows your teammates' crystals, which is great because then you can say, hey, Flappy, man, I know I keep talking shit, but buddy, I can see you have the most crystals. Please drop me 1,000 so I can buy more sharp shot. You're taking all the kills, bro. I'm fine. No hard feeling, no pent-up aggression here. I'm fine. A couple other things that are being optimized, like projectiles and Crimson Haze VFX and landmines and all this good stuff. I think the crowns no longer really launch you anymore. Crown launching is dead. I don't know why he spent time changing my crowns. Speaking of crowns, by the way, the crown bull is actually your literal crown count of whatever mode that you're currently logged in on playing. So if you're on Nightmare, you got 50 wins, guess what? From the sky, 50 crowns are gonna spawn in, rain down into your crown bowl. I remember from day one when he first added the crown bowl to the, I think it was closed beta. It's one of the early lobby islands. It was like, oh yeah, it's placeholder, it'll eventually be your actual count. And now it is. And it's very cool when you're a decent player and you've got, 100 wins or whatever in some section and just watching it rain down. Yeah, another thing with optimization here, the global projectile limit just keeps on going up, baby. It's up to 750 from 500, and you can stand on top of enemies. Really, this is like skulls. I mean, they're kind of the only ones big enough. Maybe grubs. You can try it just in the shop island. Go stand on the DPS dummy. It's pretty funny. And we're moving on to the bug fixes now. I'm going to be honest. I'm looking at these. I'm sure they're important, but I don't know if any of these are popping out as things that I personally give a shit about. Like, I'm happy that bugs are being fixed, but it's a lot of little bugs, and there's like 25 things here, and I just don't know what it is, man. Oh, this is a big one. Okay, we found one, baby. Driller calculates correctly in multiplayer games. I guess it didn't in the past. I never even noticed, although it did seem low. So in theory, we should see it trigger more consistently now, and I will be trying that out in the near future, and will maybe let you know, maybe not. Pretty good update. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know, have you tried out the update yet? Are you liking it? Does it feel like a better game? I think every update has been better than the last. I'll keep saying that because it's true. Noisestorm is working his ass off, getting stuff into the game that we're all wanting. When he said new end, did he even talk about the fucking ice staff anywhere? I just feel like I'm losing my mind. It's not even written anywhere. Is it? It's only written in the top section, so I said at the beginning and I didn't go into it. Same thing with the electro globe. Okay, hey, buddy, hey, guy, pause. So yeah, here is the ice staff. It's the only weapon that spawns directly from, vertically above the enemies and rains down. This is a huge pro, but also a little bit of a con. Some of the islands are in caves and stuff, and sometimes they'll spawn kind of above the ceiling. You're gonna have to just work through that. But besides that, it feels like a very overpowered weapon. It's very, very strong. And the electro globe is the lightning AoE ability. Very, very good, very strong, very visually pleasing as well. Lightning and ice both ripping hard in this update. Hope you guys are enjoying it. If you like the video, like the video. Subscribe to the channel. I'm your guy for Grab Champions, and hopefully see you in the next one. Take care.